Hello everyone, my name is Jocelyn and welcome to All We Make is Good. This is the Make Everything podcast where it has been quite a while since I have recorded an episode. I have no idea what kept me away for so long. I have a lot of things to share with you today, a lot of acquisitions, Rhinebeck news. I have 2 finished objects, one mostly finished object. It just needs like some cleaning up with the ends and things like that. And then another work in progress, but it's just a blanket, so it's kind of like an in between major projects kind of a deal. So, but I'll still share my progress on that with you. I think that's it. I feel like this is going to be a long, talkative episode. So I want to start with Rhinebeck. I, of course, waited way too long again this year to look up a place to stay for the weekend. Last year, I went up on Friday afternoon, spent the night on Friday, and then I did Rhinebeck for the weekend, and I didn't realize that there were actually fiber festivals all day long on Friday as well, so I missed them all last year. So this year, I was super lucky to find a motel that was like just opening up again this coming September. So I got a room for the whole weekend. I was super, super lucky to find it out in Red Hook, which is where I stayed last time. I had an Airbnb last year in Red Hook, and it's very close by. She said it's only like 3 miles away from the fairgrounds, so I got so lucky. I can't believe, because I went and I looked at all of the motels in Rhinebeck, and they're all booked already. Every single one. Everything is booked. The only thing that I could see was either like a single room Airbnb, like within someone's house to rent, which is fine. That's what I did last year, but I didn't want to do that again this year. Or it was like an entire house for like $3,000. And I was like, I don't want to do that either. I'm just going by myself. So I got very, very lucky to find a room at, I believe it was the Red Hook Motel. And I stayed last year in Red Hook as well. So I finally booked it, and I'm going up this year on Thursday to spend the night there on Thursday, wake up early on Friday, and hopefully go to all of the fiber festivals on Friday as well, and then do all of the weekend stuff with Rhinebeck. And then I also always take Monday off following like a very busy weekend, so that I can kind of relax for a day before going back to work. So I am super, super excited. I cannot wait. I have to remember to buy my tickets still, because last year I made the mistake of forgetting that I needed to buy my tickets online first, and they were like a couple bucks cheaper online as well, so I ended up buying my tickets at the gate. So I have to remember to do that as well. Maybe I'll do that after this. So that's all my Rhinebeck news. Let me know in the comments if you are also going to Rhinebeck. Maybe we will see each other there in passing or something. I'm hoping to catch up with the 2 women that I met last year, and see them and see how they've been doing and stuff. So actually, one of them did start her own podcast, Hillary. I will link her podcast channel down below. So she started one. I'd love to take the credit for convincing her, but I'm sure I wasn't the one. All right, anyways, let's jump right into acquisitions. I have been going Barnyard Knits crazy. Absolutely crazy. So I want to start with a sidebar, actually. Later last week, I don't remember when it was a few days ago, but less than a week ago, I just got into my head and I said, oh, why don't I just create a picture database of all of Barnyard Knits colorways and all of the pictures on all of the different bases for every single one. So I did. I opened up a Google Doc and I created a whole table with all of the different bases that I knew that I would ever buy something on. And I put a list together of all of the different speckled colorways, all of the different tonal colorways, and then I have tables down at the bottom where I created fade sets. And basically the reason I did this is because sometimes when a colorway is out of stock and she doesn't plan on making it for a while or something like that, she removes it entirely from her website. So I forget that some of her colorways exist and what they look like if they're not in stock and they haven't been for a while. So I created this so that I go and check her website like 3 times a day to see if she uploaded any new pictures and any new colorways. And I'll take a little screenshot of her colorway and then put it into my table, and then I have everything lined up so I can see it all the time. And it has been so fun. I love organizational projects. I love creating databases like that. It's just something that I find it's just so fun for me. I have no idea why, but it's just a blast. So I spent hours and hours that morning just creating the table, and then I spent hours upon hours going through every single listing on her website and taking screenshots, and then I do that every day. I cross-check and make sure she hasn't uploaded any new colorways, and if she does, I take those screenshots and add them on all of the different bases. The only one in the table that I have completely filled out with her sock base, her deluxe sock, DK, worsted, slub, and heavenly fingering. Those are the bases that I would buy something on. Worsted, I probably wouldn't even buy anything off of worsted, but I liked having the whole range there. Oh, and then I also included the non-superwash worsted base. So the only one that I have filled out entirely, apart from the non-superwash worsted base, is pheasant. And so I'm slowly filling in everything, especially on the deluxe sock, because that's my preferred base. I'm going through constantly and trying to update it. But anyways, I'm also at the same time like buying yarn every few days whenever I see a new colorway that comes in on like the deluxe sock base and I really want it. So we will start with the acquisition that I mentioned in my last podcast episode like over a month ago. I was waiting for a shipment from Barnyard Knits, and it was the Heavenly Fingering base. So this is the white pumpkin that I talked about. Oh, the other way. White pumpkin. And so the base is 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere. And it's just, I mean, look at that. I want to be draped in this when I die. This is so amazing. And I actually had to rewatch my last podcast episode to see where I left off in my projects and acquisitions and stuff. And I had said that I wanted to make a rolled collar and hem and sleeve sweater with this, and I still think that's a great idea. So I'm actually going to hold on to that idea, and hopefully I don't change my mind by the time fall comes around. I am doing so much fall planning. I mean, I don't even think we've hit summer yet. I think it's still spring. I don't know. The weather throws me off because it's way too hot to be spring right now. But I'm heavily into the fall planning, and every single one of my fall plans right now is like a knee-length fingering weight wool dress. So I'm collecting yarn to do that. And every single one is like a fade, and every single one has like the same cut and shape and everything, and it's just all the same wool dress that I can wear in different fades, different colorways, different textures, different color designs, everything, but it's all the same. It's all the same wool dress. But this one's gonna stay a sweater, I think. So we'll stick that in there. Oops, where did that go? Put that back. Okay, after that, I did go to a different store, and I picked out a colorway called Heart of the Forest, and this one is from Apothecary Fiber. And I really love this. So her pictures online made it seem, I think, less vibrant is what I want to say. I think it was much more earthy in her pictures. And this is like very vibrant, like turquoise, and like the pinks are very pink. And I was expecting more muted kind of greens, more earthy greens and browns. But honestly, I still love it. I still really love it. And it's funny because when I got this, I realized that it's exactly the same colors that I'm already using in another project that I'm going to show you, the one that's mostly finished except for like a few ends. So this is Heart of the Forest by, again, Apothecary Fiber Co, and I got this on her Nymph Fingering base, which is 100% superwash merino. There's no nylon in that one. So I got it in my head that I'm going to make everything for the rest of my life in fingering weight yarn, so I don't know where I got that idea from, but back to Barnyard Knits. I got an order with Pheasant on the deluxe sock base, and I've had my eye on this colorway for probably like 2 years. There are a few colorways from Barnyard Knits that I have been just waiting for like my whole life to be able to afford to buy them. Pheasant is one of them. The other one is Farm Fresh, which she doesn't have anywhere on her website right now, which I'm so sad about. So that's like one of those rows in my database right now that's completely empty, which is very sad because it is probably my favorite colorway that she makes. So I got Pheasant, and then I also got Shallot, which I love. I seem to be very into the white base yarns that are like heavy with speckles. That seems to be my trend right now. Seems to be. So I got those two, and then shortly after that she released a colorway that I hadn't seen before, which was Pumpkin Patch, and she did release it on the deluxe sock base. So I got all 3 skeins. And I love this. I think it was a little bit more orangey red on the picture listing, but I know that that's like a different dye batch. She says like right in her listing she doesn't update the picture for every dye batch. So I think I was expecting like a touch more of the orange, but I still really, really love it. So I imagine that this is going to be either all the same colorway in like a large sweater, or maybe I'll combine it with like a solid color at some point or something, and like I have no idea. I have no plans. I have no official plans for anything at this point. I am just in love, buying yarn left and right, willy-nilly. There's a woman on Instagram that I see all the time, and she like does makeup videos, and she does like PI stories, I can legally tell you, and one of her lines is like, right out there in front of God and everybody. And I don't know why, I just love that line. So every time I pick up these yarns, I'm like, I'm just willy-nilly buying this yarn in front of God and everybody. Oh, I didn't even talk about this. This is Antique Pottery, and it is another one of those colorways that I had never before seen from Barnyard Knits, and she released it on the deluxe sock and her regular sock base. So I fell in love with it immediately, and again bought all 3 skeins. So this, I actually was looking at it. Where did I put Shallot? When I was putting together my database, and I put together all of the fade sets that I really liked, I actually noticed that these kind of like nicely, I mean they're very similar, but Antique Pottery has a lot more speckling than Shallot. Shallot is much more white. So I actually kind of thought that these kind of faded nicely into each other. And then on the other end, based on the pictures on the website, on the other end of this, I would put Shipwreck. but I think I'd probably need to see the skein in front of me to make sure that that's what I want to do. Because originally, again, this is just purely based off of the pictures on her website, originally I was going to fade shallot into shipwreck into pheasant, and that was like my all-time favorite fade. I think I have new favorites now that I put together. I think I spent 3 or 4 hours putting together fades, and I came up with like 17 of them, I think. Let me know if you want to see some of the fades, and I'll share them in the next episode, because I had way too much fun doing that, and I love every single one, and I think every single one of them is like killer. So let me know if you want to see those. So that's everything from Barnyard Knits that I've gotten in the last month. I also made a trip to Peter Patchis and got 2 new combs. So the first one is, let me make sure I'm saying it right. This must be cotton. Yeah, okay. So this is a 6/2 cotton. I can't remember exactly how many pounds this is. Well, I have my scale over there. I could put it on, but I love this color. I love it. I don't know if it's like, I don't know if it really goes with my skin tone. I really don't know. But I love the color itself, and I know that I would wear it, even if it does do something heinous to my skin when I wear it. Or just like completely blend in, I don't even know. But it's like a very pale mauve, I think, is what you would call this. And it is a 6/2 cotton, so I have lately been knitting with like yarn this size, and it's actually been really fun. I really enjoy it, specifically with this linen. I think this one's a little bit thicker though. Yeah, this is a 3/2. I forget how, yeah, this one's definitely thinner. 6/2 is definitely thinner. But I've been knitting with this single and really enjoying it, so I imagine I would also enjoy knitting with this single. And then the other one I've gotten is an 8/2, so I think that's even thinner than a 6/2, if I understand the numbers correctly. So this is another 100% cotton. The color is American Red. And I really, really love this. And I was like, this one I know goes. This one will kill it. Like, I was shopping around, and there was another woman in there shopping, and her husband was like off in the corner trying to get out of there. But I was stuck between like 4 or 5 cones, and I was ready to come home with 4 or 5 cones. But I decided that I should probably just get what I think that I can manage, because I still have yet to get through a lot of these cones. And she told me that this one went really well with my hair, so this is the one I bought. So thank you to that woman for telling me it looks good with my hair. Alright, so this is a lot of cotton, and I actually got home and realized that I have a very similar cotton already. This one is a 4/2. I have to figure out how these numbers work. 3/2. I imagine that like the larger the first number, that's the thinner the thread, so that would mean that this as a 3/2 is the thickest. Oh, I realize you can't even see that. So 3/2 would be the thickest, followed by 4/2, followed by 6/2, followed by 8/2. Oh, so maybe I should hold this double. Nah. When would I ever do that? So I have cotton, and I have cones of yarn enough to hold me over for the next 10 summers of knitting. But I am actually going through it at quite a rapid rate. So I don't know if you guys remember seeing this when I first got it, but it was a lot thicker. And I will show you when we start getting into the projects. Actually, that's my last acquisition, so we are going to dive right into the projects now, but that's going to be the second one, is what I made with that linen yarn. The first one is the berry sweater, which I finally finished. So that's the front, that's the back, and you can see I didn't do anything about the color jogging like I was talking about. I just left it as is, and I kind of think it's a little, I think it's very cute actually to have that color jog down the back like a seam. But I have been wearing this a ton. David and I took a little photo shoot out in my backyard. I will put some pictures up on the screen showing you. He was a wonderful art director or photo director, however you would put it. His cues were both hands on your hips, do something creative, and then be a ballerina. I think there might have been one other one where I was like, no. It's like, I've had enough. But no, it was really fun. I loved going out and doing that with him. I almost never take finished object photos like that. So it was really, really fun to do. I remember last time I was really unsure of how I wanted to do the jog from held double yarn to held single, and I realized that right after this row, oh my god, I'm losing my words now. Right after the few stripes here, I realized that it wouldn't really look terrible if I just went right to held single. And when I wear it, you can't even really tell. Like, I know you can tell here because it kind of comes in just a little bit where it changes, but the sleeves are super lightweight, super flowy, and I love the gauge on it. I actually have a lot more of this yarn in a different colorway. It's like, I forget if they call it rose. I forget what the colorway is, but it's another Loops and Threads wool like, and I have 3 or 4 skeins of it. Oh no, I have a snag. I have to fix that eventually. But I have 3 or 4 skeins of it, full skeins. So I was thinking of doing like a nice cardigan, but do it all single strand and like the super loose gauge, and it would be like a really nice lightweight cardigan for the summer when I just like want to keep the mosquitoes off me or something, or maybe like it might rain or it gets a tiny bit chilly in the summer or something like that, or like a beach cardigan or something. Not that I go to the beach ever, but you get what I'm saying. You get the vibe. So I really like that. The sleeves inspired a whole new garment. So yeah, this is the berry sweater. Very, very happy with it. The hems I did down here at the bottom. I actually did a folded, what would you call this? I don't know actually. So I did a folded hem, I think it's called, where I knit like 8 rows and then folded it in half and then sewed it down inside, which does make it kind of roll, and it kind of flares out just a little bit on the bottom. But again, I'm really not bothered by just about anything in terms of knitting. So I'm just not bothered. So I like it. I love it. I wear it all the time. Not anymore though, because it's too warm, but I do really love this project, and I can't wait for the weather to turn colder already so I can start wearing it again. I am currently in the process of building some shelves with my dad so that I can properly start storing all of my hand knits and things like that. So I would love to be able to, and they're all going to be like kind of cube storage, so I would love to be able to see all of my hand knits laid out like that. I can't wait for that. All right, so finished object number 2 is knit in this 100% linen yarn, and this was a gift for my sister-in-law, and my sister has also requested a dress, like a long summer dress based off of this idea. So this is for my sister-in-law, and it is done. So this was after it was washed. I feel like I'm jumping around and not in any particular order. Okay, so I knit this on US 4 needles, I believe. This took me about a month, start to finish, and I knit 2 very large, wide lace panels. And the lace design is from the Knitting Stitch Bible. This is the one that I used. Let me find it. Probably should have had it open. This one right here. Okay. So I used this stitch pattern in the Knitting Stitch Bible. They call it Falling Leaves. And I love this pattern. So it's very long. It wasn't really intended to be that long. I thought it was gonna end a lot higher, but because of the weight, I didn't really take that into account, how heavy it would get the more I knit, so it did kind of weigh it down. So now it's like, I think it's just above her knee in terms of length, but she really likes it. So I did 2 flat rectangle panels with the lace. So the front and the back are both open lace. And then I knit the sleeves in the round separately and just did a gentle taper. We opted for a really deep armhole that gradually tapered down to a straight sleeve, and did with a very basic bind off. And I was actually very surprised that it didn't roll at all. None of the hems really rolled. Wow, maybe I should just do a basic bind off instead of anything fancy. Maybe that'll roll less. So, and then I had the idea, so she wanted a drop shoulder, not drop shoulder, she wanted an off the shoulder sweater with lace and long sleeves. So this is what we came up with. So the opening up top is quite wide, and she is more petite than I am, so this kind of works for me. Oh, actually that stretched out quite a bit. So this used to be like a good size off the shoulder opening, but she said on her, she's much smaller than me, it just kind of falls off. So she gave it back to me to take in the opening a little bit more. But I actually put this on my sewing machine to sew it all together rather than seaming it up with the yarn itself. So I just used an overlocking stitch, I believe, and all of the seams are done with the overlocking. And I had to ask the lady at Joann's what kind of thread I should use for my machine, and it was quite a learning process. I did have to rip out some seams several times before I feel like I got it right. And the sleeves puckered quite a bit when I did it. They puckered a lot, and I couldn't really figure out what to do about it. And in the end, what I did is I did the same overlocking stitch, but I went back in with scissors and I kind of cut in the middle of, like, I cut a bunch of slits inside the fabric so that it wasn't so bunched up. And I think it helped, and I think it helped to stretch it out a little bit after she wore it and stuff, so that it doesn't look so bad, so puckered. Not that it looked bad, it just looked a little puckered. But I think it actually looks a lot better now that it's been worn. This is much, much flatter than it was. So again, a huge learning process, but I am really, really happy with how it came out. Here's the other sleeve, so you can see it's kind of still, and I'm not like an expert at sewing. I've done one sewing project prior to this, so I am by no means an expert, but I did have a lot of fun like figuring it out and putting it all together. So the last thing that I have to do for this garment is take in the neck opening a little bit more. I'll probably go in probably to the tips of the leaves. So probably I'll just go in like one more repeat and take it into there. I think that would probably be good. My shoulders are wider than hers, but I think that would probably do it. I could also, with this opening as it stands, I could also just like reinforce it so it doesn't stretch, and maybe that would help. I don't really know. If you have any experience at all sewing hand knit garments, please, 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 please give me your tips and tricks, because I, again, am not an expert whatsoever. This is my first time sewing a hand knit garment, and I can see that it did stretch out quite a bit. So I would love to know what you would do to either reinforce the opening or just, again, take it in some more and just leave it as is on the outside. I really don't know. And especially because it's lace. I figured it would stretch out, but I thought because it's linen it would have like a max stretch, but it doesn't seem to have reached it yet. So I wasn't anticipating that much stretch. I never do with linen. Anyways, yes, this project took me a month to do the design work, the math, the knitting, and then sewing it all together. So huge project for me. That's a very big project for me. I don't usually spend more than 2 or 3 weeks on a project. So that was pretty big for me. So my sister wants an even longer dress, and she wants it to like be a little bit wider on the bottom and taper up. Is that what they call A-line? Is that what an A-line is? That would kind of make sense because it kind of, anyways. And hers is also going to be open lace down the front, open lace down the back, but it's going to be a different design. I already designed the lace pattern myself, and it's going to be like lots of diamonds and very geometric and open. And hers is just going to be a straight rectangle of lace, and like the rest on the sides of the body will all be stockinette. And I'm going to do the same thing where I put it on my sewing machine, sew it all together. I've kind of been going crazy with like sewing hand knit garments together instead of seaming it with the yarn itself, especially for cotton and linen, because I struggled with that on my texture top, which is a top that I did last summer, I believe, and I used another cotton yarn. I used this cotton, and it was a huge project, and I love it so much, but when I was seaming up the sides with the cotton, I put it on and I tried to like stretch it just a little bit, and it snapped and the seams ripped right open. So I didn't want that to happen with this. I wanted it to be able to move and stretch without ripping apart. And I didn't feel confident that I would find a way to do that with the yarn itself. So I went with the sewing machine. So if you have any experience at all with that, please let me know. I am desperate to find tips and tricks for sewing up hand knit garments. All right, so those are the two finished objects, even though I do have to take in the other one a little bit more. So the third one I actually finished last night, and I will show it to you here, but I will probably stand up and insert a clip or something to show you better. You can see all of the ends on the inside. This is a granny square cardigan, and if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have seen in my stories the progress as I worked on this, and like trying to figure out the gradient and if I should even do a gradient. But this is the sleeves. The sleeves should be the same, I think. And then this is the back. And I did opt for a gradient all the way down. And And then in the front, I had originally done, let me see if I can rearrange this to show you well enough. Okay, so this is the front, and originally none of this black was here. It was just this panel and then a triangle, and it came down. It was a very wide opening in the front. I didn't expect it to be as wide as it was, because as soon as I put the sleeves on the garment and sewed up the sides, it pulled it back quite a bit. So this was a little funky looking because it kind of joined together like right under the boobs, and like the whole front of my body was just like open on display, and then it would have buttoned right under my boobs, and I didn't like that look for me. So last night I went back in and I added some of this black in the front, and what I did was I kind of just sealed up that opening in the front, and then I put a little band across it with the 3 buttons here, so when I put this on I can just button it right across the front. It is open underneath that. I think you'll see it better with the clip, so hopefully I took that clip and put it in here somewhere, of me standing up wearing this. So the next thing that I have to do is, I started last night going through and snipping a bunch of the sewing thread off and just tying knots in the ends, because I cannot be bothered to weave in every single one of these ends. There are 92 squares, and 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 triangles in total, I think that's right. And that doesn't include the little button band and the little flap that comes around the front. I think this would be another 2 squares, so like 94 squares-ish and 18 triangles. So I can't be bothered to go through all of those and tie in like the dozen tails that are involved in every single one of those squares. So I should have done it as I went, and I did not. Yep. So that is my granny square cardigan. It is wildly heavy, but it was meant to be like a heavy, almost like a blanket kind of cardigan, because I want to wear it in the winter, like around the house and stuff. It goes well past my butt, kind of keeps everything in nice and warm. I really, really love it. I love the colors, and this is kind of what I was saying, where this skein of yarn, Heart of the Forest, is kind of like the same. Oh wow, that's pretty much exactly the same as all of the colors that I just used in this cardigan. Oh, so let me talk about the yarn. So this was made using several different balls of acrylic yarn that I had in my stash for a long time. The main one that I really wanted to use up was this one, and this is Red Heart Fashion, or Red Heart Soft, in the garden colorway, which is discontinued. It was discontinued years ago, and I never used it. And I think I had 3 or 4 skeins, full skeins, or balls of it. And this is what's left. So I think I did a very good job of using it up, and I am thinking about making a little pouch using up the rest of it, that kind of matches, but it wouldn't be like a purse, because I'm not really a purse person. Ew, that sounded terrible. I'm not a person that likes to wear purses. So I'm thinking about doing like a little button pouch. And I love pouches. I collect little zipper pouches. I have a basket here of just little pouches that have nothing in them, but I just love pouches. Zipper pouches, button pouches, pull, draw pouches, doesn't matter. Love them. So I'm thinking about using up the rest of this because I have like the perfect amount of all of the yarn left to make a pouch. Anyways, okay, so this is the first colorway that I used. The next one is Karen Simply Soft, and the colorway is called Sage, even though it's more of like a minty bluish green, but it's called Sage. And I had one skein of it, and originally I was just going to donate it, but then I realized it kind of matched really nicely, kind of went really well with the garden. Anyway, I liked the way that it looked with the garden, so I decided to use the one skein that I had, and then I ran out after finishing only the 2 sleeves and the back panel. So I panicked because I couldn't find this anywhere in stores, so I had to order it from Joann's. And then I was like, oh great, I'm gonna wait a month for it to ship from Florida from Joann's, but it actually came pretty quickly. It even came a day earlier than they said it would. So that's Karen Simply Soft Sage. And then, wow, this just fell right apart in my hands. This did not look this way 2 seconds ago. This is Red Heart Fashion Soft in, I think it's just the off-white colorway. I don't remember. I don't have the ball tag anymore, because this has also been in my stash for years and years. I bought this maybe like 7 years ago, thinking I was going to use it to make something for my wedding. And honestly, it is really nice yarn. I really liked working with this. I love the color. I love that it's not too shiny for a white. It is very soft. I could absolutely see myself still making something for myself in this yarn. But I don't know how to find it anymore. And I don't know if it's discontinued. I didn't do that much research on it. But I only had 1 ball, and I only used up 1 ball. Or I only used up half a ball. So I can use that to still make a pouch. The black that I used to go around the edge of all of my granny squares is another Karen Simply Soft, and I ran out of black twice, and I almost did again last night to build those front panels that I showed. So I think I have just the right amount of all 4 colors to make something, even if it's like a tote bag, or I could do multiple pouches. Who knows? But those are the yarns that I used, and I crocheted it all on a USG hook, 4.25 millimeter, which is smaller than they recommend for the Karen Simply Soft. But I think the white is actually like a tiny bit smaller gauge yarn. Did that make any sense? The white yarn that I used in this project is slightly thinner than the Karen Simply Soft or the garden colorway that I used. So I erred on the side of smaller for my hook size, so I used that. And that is that. So I do need to finish going through, fixing ends, snipping sewing thread. I ran out of black sewing thread towards the very end of my project, so you can see in some areas, like when I joined the triangles onto the sleeves and then joined the sleeves and everything, basically all of the final details that I had to do for sewing on the machine was done in a light blue. Which I still love. Honestly, I love when a garment looks handmade. I love when you can tell that somebody made it. Oh, I didn't even say anything about it. I made all of the granny squares, and then I had seen somewhere on Instagram somebody was like, I just put all my blankets together, all my granny square blankets together with a zigzag stitch on the sewing machine. I was like, that sounds genius. So that's what I did. Everything is held together with a zigzag stitch on my sewing machine. If anyone is curious, I have the Singer 9960. I'm going to put it on the screen because I can't see it from here. It's like a Singer Fashion something 9960, I believe. just if anyone was curious. And this is the first time that I'm using it since I bought it like a year and a half ago. So very excited that I got to start using it on this and my linen dress project over there for my sister-in-law. So it is the farthest thing from perfect. I missed a whole bunch of like corners when I was putting it together. None of the squares are blocked. I just threw it together, and that is how I love working on projects. So you can see all of the ends are coming right out the end of the sleeves. The sleeves are quite bulky. I couldn't figure out how to taper sleeves when they're granny squares like this. I guess the only thing I could have done was make smaller granny squares or something, but then the ends wouldn't have lined up. I don't really know. So they were straight, big, long rectangle sleeves. So, but I couldn't be happier, honestly. It's very heavy, so I don't know how I'm gonna store it. I think it might just need to get folded up rather than hung. And I just can't wait to be done with all of these ends. So I'm probably going to sit down all for the rest of the day, tying knots in all of these ends, finishing In the Dark on Netflix, which is a great show, by the way. That's probably how I'm going to spend the rest of my night. Okay, we are 45 minutes in. I have one more project to share, and that is a work in progress blanket. And this is another project that was similar to the Granny Square cardigan, where it was just all this acrylic yarn that kind of went together, the colors kind of went together. So I was like, I would really like to use up this yarn. And what better way to use up yarn than in a blanket? So I am using, this is leftover berry blue. This is all Caron Simply Soft, every skein. So this is berry blue, and I used this to make my rooster sweater, which I don't know if I've ever worn on the podcast here. There's a picture of it on my Instagram. If I can dig one up, I will put one over here so you can see. But this was the base for my rooster sweater, and I still had two and a half to three skeins of this color. And I do really like that color, so I wanted to find a way to use it up. The off-white, and I had used this in a crochet t-shirt that I made for my sister, where I did a colorwork Tyrannosaurus motif. I don't think I have a picture of it, if I'm being totally honest. If I do have one and I can find it, I'll put it here. But I used this off-white, and I also used the regular white in that project as well. And then finally, oh no, I have two more. This one is light country blue, I believe. I had to match it to the closest color that I could find online, because I don't have the ball band anymore. I only had one of these. So I believe this is light country blue. And then I have the gray heather. And I'm not using too much of the gray heather. I feel like it does fit with the colorway, but it's not exactly my favorite to go with it. But I'm trying to stick it in there anywhere I can. This blanket is completely random. I have made 2 very large squares so far and 2 very small squares, and I'm kind of just winging it. Anything that I feel like making with any of these colors at any time is just what I'm going to end up making, and then I'll sew it all together and hope that it ends up square, rectangular, I don't know, 90 degrees somewhere. Even if it's a big triangle, I don't care. This is the first square that I made, and this took me, I think this took me 2 days to figure out the pattern and make this. And I had so much fun. It was a little bit too complex for me to work on it while I was doing anything else. So if I had to work that night, or if I just was more invested in my show than I was in crochet, then I couldn't do them both at the same time. So this is definitely not a relaxing kind of crochet. This is like a pay attention and put all of your focus into the instructions kind of crochet. But I really, really love how it turned out. This is the most intricate thing that I've ever done with crochet. This is a free pattern and it comes with a video tutorial. I will find the link and put it in the description box so that if you guys want to make this particular square, you can do that. I did color changes wherever I want, and I didn't follow her method of color changing. For the most part, I didn't, but I love it. I then took a bunch of the techniques that I learned when doing that, and I made up my own square, which I think came out really nice, actually. I took a bunch of my favorite techniques to put this together. Mainly like a double crochet through the back post, is that what they call it? I don't know, back post something. All of these places where like this color pops out, everything down here. I did front post, I did back post, I did everything. I did the little puff stitches, these little rainbow parts. I don't know why I call it a rainbow. It's where it kind of like just around the corner. You know what I'm saying, this part. But I had a lot of fun making this. I really liked just making it up as I went along. I thought that was so fun. I will probably make only 2 more of these, maybe. I have to keep reminding myself when I'm doing these that I have mostly this blue color. Oh, these are the other 2 squares that I made. That was it. Just 2 little granny squares. I have to keep reminding myself that I mostly have this blue color, so I need to use that primarily and just use the rest as accents. I didn't even use the off-white in this square. So I'm gonna have to find other places to put those. But I think in the end, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have like 4, maybe up to 6. Although if I do 9, that would look really nice. Or if I did like an X, which would be 5, that might look nice. So maybe I'll do up to like 5 of these intricate, are these 12 inch? I don't even think these are 12 inches wide, but the pattern said 12-inch squares. Do these nice big squares, and I'll probably only do 5 of them because this takes a lot of mental energy. And I like crochet to be kind of mindless, where I can pay more attention to my show than the crochet itself. But I'll probably do like 5 completely random intricate squares interspersed with a bunch of granny squares. And this was, I made it so that I hope that it's kind of like a quarter of the size of the squares that I'm making. And the only way I know to gauge that is, like, I made 1, 2, 3 rows on the granny square, and it was just shy of a quarter the size of this square. So I just did like I did like 1 row of single crochet all the way around. And then I think that got it to be like a perfect quarter. And so that's what I'm hopefully gonna do with all of these granny squares. I don't know if I'll do like multiple colors in each granny square. Again, this is a completely random blanket project that will just probably take me forever. And I'm only working on it in between other projects when I either don't have an idea or I'm waiting to see my sister again to take her measurements before I can start her dress, which is where I'm at right now. Just things like that. Wow, that was a lot. That is everything that I've been working on as far as fiber content goes. I have done some paintings, but I don't have them with me. I did one commissioned painting, but I already gave it to the person. If I have a picture, I will put it in here. I bought a ton of fabric to try and get quilting. Maybe I'll take a little clip and I'll insert it here so you can at least see some of the fabric that I bought. And I'm heavily inspired by one woman on Instagram, and I will put her in the description as well. The quilts that she makes are so inspiring to me. I absolutely love them. And she's actually even inspiring my knitwear design ideas with her quilts. So I kind of have this idea of doing, I think there's a quilt type that's like log. I don't know if they call it log cabin quilts. It has something to do with logs, and it's like long rectangular strips laid out together. And I love those kinds of quilts, and it's inspiring me to do something of a modular knit garment using all of these different variegated colorways and the speckly colorways that I've gotten recently to do like a log quilt, but a knit garment, if that makes any sense. I'm sure you guys know what I mean. So I've got a lot of ideas flying around my head and a lot of time to do them. So I will hopefully get back to more regular podcast episodes and not like once every 1 to 2 months where I have way too much to talk about. This is an hour-long episode. I hope you're still here. If you are, thank you so much for sticking around with me and going through everything that I have to share with you today. I hope to see you in the next episode, and I hope you have a good rest of your week. So thank you very much again. Bye.